Sorry about that. I would like to call to order the October 7th regular meeting of the Board of Education of the Phelps-Clifton Springs School District. Pam, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And roll call.
Lynn Liebrecht, board member.
Lindsay Marino, board member.
Mike Dorr, board member.
Heather Rockefeller, board member.
Deb Gallagher, board member.
Matt Goodman, board member.
Carl DeBosch, business administrator. Nick Ganster, superintendent.
Tracy Altman, board member.
Pamela Mann, district clerk.
And I skipped over the decorum statement, so we'll go back to that. The Phelps-Clifton Springs Central School District Board of Education meets to publicly conduct its business in accordance with the law. The public is invited to observe these proceedings but is not entitled to respond or disrupt them, especially when such disturbances run counter to the district's code of conduct and the welcoming spirit of our district. The public is reminded of the context of board meetings. Board members are volunteers, audience members are visitors to school grounds, and student and staff well-being is at the heart of board operations. Visitors are reminded of the courage it takes to speak up as members of our community and the importance of encouraging civic and civil engagement. The board strives to hear all community voices during its public meetings in a safe, respectful, and orderly manner. The behavior that we expect of all students in our classrooms is also expected from visitors at board meetings. In an effort to ensure that community members' concerns are heard, the board reminds speakers to address the board in a civil manner, refrain from discussing specific personnel or students, limit outbursts, and limit unnecessary noise. The board encourages an atmosphere of respect and tolerance and strict adherence to its code of conduct. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through E as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the consent agenda items A through E as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. On to the superintendent's report.
Okay. All right. So October is one of those months where we actually have two board meetings. And in any month where we have two board meetings, there's usually a very specific reason as to why we're running two. Tonight, we are going to ask the board to accept our annual audit and the corrective action plan that goes along with it. And that's really at the center of the business tonight. So when we run two meetings in a month, we try to keep the special meeting short, and we save our presentations and other higher profile pieces for the big meeting, let's call it. So in the spirit of being efficient with time, we're going to move straight into the audit. We have Melissa Doer from Mengel Metzger Bar, or you guys are now known as MMB, right? So MMB, they conduct our annual audit. So Melissa and Carl are going to take the first part of the superintendent's report.
Melissa, if you could just push the button with the person on it so it lights up red, and then you can talk into the mic.
Okay, thank you for having me. I met with the audit committee this evening to review the results of the audit. Very positive. The financial condition of the district is strong. We talked about reserves and using reserves and funding reserves, all very positive. No material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. We had a few procedural recommendations, but overall the results of the audit were very positive.
Thank you, Melissa.
You're welcome.
Nothing further to add, Nick. That's about it. We just wanted Melissa to stick around after the audit committee meeting so that she could share her overall findings with the board on behalf of MMB. Thank you again, Melissa.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. So there is another significant piece of business for the board to consider tonight. In order to stay on track for our December 11th vote for the proposed capital project, we had to add the approval and proposition approval for the board this evening. So you'll see on tonight's agenda that there is a proposition for the board meeting, or excuse me, for the capital project. And that proposition outlines a lot of the legalese that goes along with a $35 million project. One of the things that goes along with it is the full proposition needs to be publicly advertised in 2 publications. The first advertisement needs to be at least 45 days before the public vote. And in addition, it has to appear 4 times in both of those publications. So after the board acts tonight, we hope to be able to post the information and propositions in both the Daily Messenger and the Finger Lakes Times. And that keeps us on track for our tentative December 11th vote. Another piece of business that goes along with the capital project is what is known as a SEQR, or SEQR, which stands for State Environmental Quality Review. So a while back, there was the SEQRA, or State Environmental Quality Review Act, which requires entities like schools to have an environmental study on what the environmental impacts of a proposed construction project would be. Our SEQR came back clean in terms of the proposed project would not have any negative impacts on environmental quality. So the SEQR is also there for your approval. And then the final piece of business that exists related to the project would be a simple agreement with Ontario County for the school to borrow their voting machines for the December 11th vote. So all 3 of those, I believe, are in sequential order on the agenda for this evening. So that is an important piece of business that the board will need to act upon. So now I'm just going to move into one significant update, and I feel like it's timely. I would have saved it for the 21st, but I didn't want to delay all the way until then. You're going to start to hear a lot about the word regionalization. Right now, the superintendents in our area and actually across the state are focused on discussing this notion of regionalization. And the state ed department is very clear where they say, when we ask superintendents to study regionalization, they're not asking us to study reorganization. They differentiate those 2 things very specifically. So an example of regionalization could be Mid-Lakes sharing an advanced study course with Red Jacket and us sending kids to and fro in order to increase opportunities for kids. That's regionalization. Reorganization would be something along the lines of 2 districts combining together and merging together. So what happened is back on September 9th, the New York State Board of Regents adopted an emergency resolution that asked the district superintendent, so I got to dive into the vocabulary here. A district superintendent is the superintendent of a BOCES. So in our case, Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES has a district superintendent. Her name is Lynn Rutnick. Lynn Rutnick has been tasked by the Board of Regents and the Commissioner of Education to get all 25 superintendents in the Wayne Finger Lakes BOCES in a room together and collaborate and investigate regionalization, all right, to have these talks. And they want us to do that for a couple different reasons. Thing one is they would like us to create more equity for students across our entire region. So if there's a program in another school that Mid-Lakes doesn't offer, perhaps we could send our students over to another district for that program and vice versa. So thereby increasing opportunity and to kind of break through the ceiling of what this term I begin to hear is the transcript cap. So each district would have what's called a transcript cap on the transcript that they're able to offer for their students coming out of high school, right? And you can imagine there are certain districts that are much smaller that have a much lower transcript cap than Mid-Lakes. And, you know, there are other schools that would have a transcript cap much higher than Mid-Lakes just because of the size of the district. So the whole idea here is to investigate regionalization, try to break down some of those barriers, create more opportunities for kids, and find efficiencies. So what does that mean? Finding efficiencies means that we're sharing services, we're expending less money to get things done. So that goes hand in hand. This idea of regionalization goes hand in hand with the Rockefeller Institute's study of the foundation aid formula. As we know, the Rockefeller Institute is looking at and taking a really hard look at the formula they use to dish out foundation aid to every district across the state. So we know that they're looking for efficiencies there. So our state ed department is kind of mentally preparing for that and asking us to mentally prepare for that as well, to find some efficiencies in what we do every day. Now, it also dovetails nicely into the Blue Ribbon Commission's work on graduation measures and some changes that will be coming down over the next 10 years or so with how students earn credits towards graduation and how they can demonstrate proficiency on how they earn those credits towards graduation. So all of these things are, I would say, three legs to one stool, and they're all being worked on together, and they're all working in concert with one another. So you'll hear me talk a lot about regionalization over the next year, so I just wanted to break the ice on that conversation tonight with my superintendent's report. There are a couple extra things that I wanted to note before I end, for the sake of the timing here. A lot of really great things have happened in the last couple weeks. Our agriculture club at the high school was chartered as an FFA member. We'll talk more about that on the 21st. The theater experience has their fall drama Almost Maine in the Black Box, November 7th, 8th, and 9th. Tickets will be available soon. We have a conference day this Friday that I'll update you on the 21st. I want to update you on the emergency pool project on the 21st. At our next meeting, we're going to have Jeff and our two principals, along with some teachers, reporting about last year's plans for excellence and our goals and objectives in each building for this present school year. And then the last little piece, and I'll talk more about this at our next meeting, our public information officer, Todd Clausen, did accept a position at another institution. So we will be filling that position at some point in the near future. And then there is one last thing that I need to remember. We did have a bus driver decide to retire. Bill Broomfield submitted his retirement. It's on tonight's agenda. He served the district for a very long time, and we'll invite him to our retirement celebration at the end of the year. So that does it for me.
Thank you, Nick.
Yep.
All right, on to board discussion. Committee reports. Audit committee just met. We got that report. Policy committee meets next Wednesday. What are we? Next Wednesday.
Not Monday.
Not Monday. No, not Monday. And safety committee you did the practice drill, right? Table talk.
Yeah,
Safety
do you
committee
want me to
met.
talk about that now,
Yeah,
or do you want
do-
me to wait until
Yeah,
next
go ahead
time?
and mention.
Sure. So each year we have a safety week here in the district where we take the time each day to run nearly every single drill that we could possibly run, all right? And one of the things we've added in the last couple of years is a tabletop drill at our district safety committee meeting. Last year, the tabletop drill is essentially a novel situation that I just brainstorm up, and then I present it to the safety committee, and they have to kind of tell us how they would handle the emergency situation. So last year was a power outage in mid-February with the building full of students, and we didn't know how long the power was going to be out. So it had to do with, how are we going to make sure the kids are kept safe and warm? How are we going to make sure they're fed? How are we going to transport them home? All of these wrinkles that comes without having any power in the building, right? So this year, the scenario was a little more intense. The scenario was a train derailment on the tracks down in Phelps that blocked the intersection of 88 and 96. It was in the middle of a normal old November day, no weather concerns, but there were hazardous chemicals that were on fire and being spilled, and the wind was blowing such that the village of Phelps needed to be evacuated, which means one of our evacuation sites was no longer viable. So it really pushed on the team's thinking on how we would identify, I guess you'd say, a tertiary evacuation site with having 1,500 students that we have to evacuate. And then it also pushed on the reunification process, how we would make sure that every single student was kept safe and then turned over into the hands of their parent or guardian. So it was nice. It generated a lot of conversation. In these drills, you don't ever get everything perfect and you don't come to resolution on everything, but what you do is you start that conversation, you talk about what it might look like, and that conversation generates some really rich reflection on our current practice and how we can grow and help keep kids and our staff safe. So that was our tabletop for
Thank you.
the District Safety Committee.
I was curious to hear
Yeah.
what you came up with. So, all right. So I think that's it. Do you have anything from legislative, Lynn?
Nope, that will take place on Saturday.
This next week,
coming
okay.
Saturday, yeah.
All right. So I think that's it for committee reports. Mike and I attended the four-county general membership meeting last Thursday with Regent Adrian Hale. And he was presenting on the recommendations of the Blue Ribbon Commission. And it was an interesting night. It was an interesting conversation, presentation, lots of question and answers at the end as well. Yeah, basically what the recommendations, and I think their meeting is tonight also, where they're potentially going to approve the Blue Ribbon Committee or Commission's recommendations. But the main things that they're focusing on are equity, the portrait of a graduate. So what does a graduate from New York State schools look like? They're looking to redefine credits, sunset the diploma assessment requirements. We've heard about that previously, and move to one diploma with different seals. So instead of having a local and a Regents and all these other different diplomas, it would be one singular diploma that would have different seal options. So, yeah, it was interesting. I don't know, Mike, do you have anything you want to
No, I think you covered it.
share?
Yeah. I believe it that.
Okay, yeah. So, just interesting. It was one of the things that was, I guess, good for me to hear was there was this recognition that where we are as a system and where our students are right now are in two different places. So there is a recognition that we need to, that the state ed department needs to look at where our students are and adjust to meet their needs and where they are. So I think that was good for me to hear that recognition has happened. So, anything else? Anybody else has? Our next meeting will be starting early, or not starting the meeting early, but having a retreat beforehand, so 5:30 prior to our next meeting. All right, on to public comment. The Phelps-Clifton Springs Central School District Board of Education invites public comment at this time to those who have signed up in advance with the district clerk. Please limit your comments to 2 minutes or less. Written remarks may be provided to the board if time expires before a speaker completes their remarks. We ask individuals to state their name prior to comments and to provide the district clerk with their contact information for purposes of follow-up. Although the board will not respond directly to individual comments at this time, items brought to the attention of the board may be taken under consideration for future response, action, or follow-up with the speaker. Issues related to specific district students, whether positive, negative, or neutral, must be brought to the attention of the superintendent of schools privately in order to safeguard student privacy. The board reserves the right to terminate a speaker's comments if their comments are in excess of 2 minutes, are repetitive, or are not appropriate for discussion in an open public forum. All visitors are reminded to abide by the district code of conduct and to be respectful and courteous both as speakers and as audience members. We are a community focused on bettering public education for our students, some of whom may be present. Thank you. No comments? Okay. No public comments tonight. All right, on to new business items. If there are no concerns, I would like to block items A and B, the audit and the corrective action plan for the audit. Is there a motion to approve item A and B as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of items A and B as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed? Motion carried. Item C, the resolution regarding the state environmental quality review. Is there a motion to approve the seeker?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of item C, the resolution regarding the state environmental quality review, say aye. Aye. All of those opposed? Motion carried. All right, on to the capital project proposition resolution. Is there a motion to approve the capital project proposition resolution as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of item D, the capital project proposition resolution as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed? Motion carried. Item E, the election services agreement. Is there a motion to approve the election services agreement with the Ontario County Board of Elections for the capital project vote on December 11th?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of item E, the election services agreement as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All of those opposed? Motion carried. And F, the annual professional performance review for the 24-25 school year. Excuse me, is there a motion to approve the APPR plan?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of item F, the APPR plan, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. The services agreement, this is for the senior trip. Is there a motion to approve the agreement as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the agreement as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. And I would like to block items H and I, the Mid-Lakes fundraiser and the donation from the Rotary. Is there a motion to approve items H and I as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of items H and I as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. And item J, obsolete, surplus, or unusable items for disposal. Is there a motion to approve the attached list of items that are obsolete, surplus, or unusable by the district?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of item J as presented, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. All right, on to personnel. If there are no objections, I'd like to block items A through E. So these are appointments, substitute appointments, coaching appointments, and Appendix C appointments, and then the mentors. Is there a motion to approve items A through E as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of items A through E as presented, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. I skipped over F. Look at me. If there's no objections, I'd like to block items F through H. So an unpaid leave, intent to retire, and resignations. Is there a motion to approve items F through H as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of items F through H as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. And item I, the termination. Is there a motion to approve the termination of employment as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of item I, the termination as presented, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. On to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn the regular board meeting for the purpose of entering into executive session to discuss matters related to pending litigation and matters leading to the employment of a particular person?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried.